Welcome to another deep dive session, and today we are going to speak about VPC calculation. The prerequisite for this video is basically knowledge about VPC, but I'm going to speak a bit more about VPC here, and I'm going to explain in detail about how a calculation of IP addresses are done. So please concentrate for the next 10 minutes for this video, and you'll understand how VPC calculations are done in companies. Let us quickly walk through what is VPC. Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, or Amazon VPC, lets you to launch Amazon AWS resources. AWS resources means EC2 instances, RDS machine or databases, etc. And all of these resources needs an IP address. Now, when you launch something inside a VPC, you are putting it inside a network, and internet from outside or another internet connection from another VPC will not be able to reach. In simple words, it is basically isolation of your environment. Now, VPC provides both IPv4 and IPv6. So what is IPs? You can see in the diagram over here that we have someone called as internet provider, and he assigns IP addresses for each electronic devices. Our laptop, our mobile phone, all of them have IP addresses. Similar way in AWS, the AWS resources like EC2 instances, etc. needs IP addresses so that they can communicate with the internet provider. We have already understood what is VPC in our session, and we understand how the VPC is generated, the purpose of it, but we're going to speak a bit more about how VPC calculations are done. So let us go through some points here, and please follow with me. How is VPC calculation done? Now, in a company, let's say you are tasked or you are given a task to create a VPC, and the VPC should provide 128 IP addresses. Now, how do we go about it? Now, first, we are going to pick a range. What is a range? Range is the first four numbers in the VPC. It can literally be anything. It can be 10.1.0.0, or it can be 192.168.0.0. It can literally be anything. It doesn't matter. Now, once you have decided on the first four digits, now we are going to play the next step. That is, we are going to understand what we are going to do with the IP address generation. Now, we would have seen that in any IP address creation or VPC creation, we see this format and then this v dash /x. Now, this /x will define the number of IP addresses that will be created. Now, let us understand how it is done. And let us assume that you chose 10.1.0.0 as your VPC range. Now, what will be X? Please note this X should result in 128 IP address generation. And let's see how it happens. Now, if you put 28 over here or 25 over here, I'm sorry, if you put 25 over here, it provides 128 IPs. But how is it done? Please follow here. What will happen is whatever number you put here, at this stage, it is 25. You're supposed to minus it by 38 minus that number. This is the formula. 38 is a fixed number here, and it will always remain the same. Now, in this case, X is 25. So 32 minus 25 results in 7. Now, whatever is the result of this is put to the power of 2. That is 2 to the power of 7. This should result in 128. And the IP range will be 10.1.0.0 starting and it will end at 10.1.0.128. Now, tell me something. What will happen if the number over here is 26? 32 minus 26 will be 8. So 2 to the power of 8. And whatever 2 to the power of 8 will be, that many IP addresses will be created. Now, as exercise, after you have understood this, use the same example and tell me if the IP address range is 1.0.1.0/16, tell me what will be the starting IP address range, the first IP address range, the last IP address range, and how many IPs will be created. If you get this answer right, you have understood the calculation of how IPs are generated. This is the core calculation when it comes to VPC, and VPC again plays a big role. And from VPC, you generate IP addresses, and these IP addresses in future will be assigned to your EC2 instances. And that's about our VPC calculation. Thanks a lot.